Hi, welcome back to Outside the Box. I'm Rob, this is Bob, and we're back here for an instructional video on how to measure the skins for your cabinet. The skins being the 1/4 inch plywood that you're going to be putting over the top of your boxes. Now we do this very systematically every time, so pay attention just like before. We'll go through the step-by-step instruction on how to do this. We always start out by measuring our undercabs first. Our undercabs being the panels that are going to be going underneath the cabinets on the uppers.
Again, we do recommend 2 people on the measuring, one to man the measuring tape and the other to write down the measurements.
All right, so this has a section in between here that it's going to keep us from being able to do the under cabinet panel in one panel. So we're going to switch this into 2 panels. Now, always width first. Again, I'm going to go 11 by 33 3/4. You're going to want to try to measure these panels as accurately as possible, although if you feel like it and you feel like making more cuts, if you measure them big, that's better than measuring them small. This one is 11 by 34. After you're done with the undercabs, just like before with the doors, you're going to want to work from left to right, top to bottom. So I'm going to come all the way here to the left to this big panel over here, and I'm going to measure it. Now, this crown is very simple to measure over the top of. It's flush to the top, so you're just going to want to measure your panel to the top of that crown. So my width is 25.5. And my height is 80.5. Moving on to the next panel is this one right here. Width is 25.5 by 48. One thing you're going to want to make sure of on the panels like this is if you have some backsplash, you're planning on removing that backsplash later, you want to account for that, add a little bit to your 1/4 inch panel so it doesn't end up too small.
As well with countertops, if countertops are going to be coming off, you want to make sure that you have enough material to cover that area as well.
All right, so this panel is 12 1/4 by 30. We don't have any lower panels that we have to deal with until this area, so we're going to come down here, 24 1/4, and for this particular cabinet, I know that I'm removing the counter. So in order to be as accurate as possible, I'm just going to go ahead and measure from the bottom of the panel to the top of the counter, and I'll have to deal with cutting that off later. So it is 24 1/4 by 32 5/8. After you get done with your panels, then you're going to want to address your strips of material in order to do the face frame material. The first thing you're going to want to do with this is identify the different widths in which you want to order your face frame material. I always go from widest to narrowest. Typically, your widest section is going to be the toe kick area. That is the area that sits behind your base that comes up to the bottom of the cabinet from the floor. The easiest way to kind of see if that is indeed your widest area is just go down and open up your doors and just visually look at the width of your stiles and rails. So now that I've done that, I can take a visual on what may be the widest piece, and it holds true that our toe kick here is the widest. So this measures at 3.5. What you're going to want to do with every skin that you order is order it at least a 1/4 inch wider than what it actually measures. So this is measuring 3.5. I'm going to write 3 3/4 on my piece of paper. Just going to look around and see what my next widest piece is going to be.
And all of our material comes in 8-foot lengths, so when you're making your count them in 8-foot sections.
So now I've determined that this rail, my stile's going up here, even the top rail for where the crown is, they're all 2.5. So I'm gonna write 2 3/4 on my paper. My next smallest measurement is probably going to be the area in between, the rails in between your drawers. So I'll go ahead and measure that. That measures at 2.5 as well, so that 2 3/4 still stands. So then the last thing I look at, basically these bottom rails, which measure at 1 1/8. These bottom rails measure at 5/8. I would go ahead and include those as one. So you go to your widest measurement, 1 1/8. Let's just go ahead and order that at 1 1/2. So now that I have my 3 widths measured, I want to know how many sticks of each width that I need to go with. So I go back here to my width and I look at the 3 3/4. Everything comes in 8-foot sticks, so that's what I want to calculate. So I'm just going to go ahead, measure that. To the nearest foot is 2 feet.
And this is why it's helpful with 2 people on long sections.
That nearest foot is 9 feet.
And there's 2 feet on this side.
All right, so that means we have a total of 13 feet of that width, and the nearest 8 foot would be 16 feet. So then we could just write 2 next to that 3 3/4.
However, with the wide sticks, it's beneficial to order extra in case you have any pieces that you need to cut down to later. So instead of 2, since it's a low number, we go ahead and just double that up to 4. We usually add about 2 extra sticks just to account for any cutoff waste.
As long as you're ordering extra of the very wide stuff, then you know that you have your widest measurement taken care of. You really can't have too much of that because it allows you to even screw up cuts as you're going along and still have enough material in order to complete the job. Now we're going to go with our 2 3/4 width, which is going to be by far our greatest number of sticks that we're going to be ordering. The easiest way to do this is kind of eyeball. So you know that if you're going in 8-foot sections, and we already measured our panel there at 80.5, that these 2 outside strips are going to each be 1 strip of 1/4 inch. So you start counting 1, 2, and then these are 30-inch sections, which
30-inch height,
which will allow you to get more sticks out of each piece. So if they're 30 inches tall and we're dealing with 8-foot sticks, then we know that we can get 1, 2, 3 pieces out of that. So those 1, 2, 3 pieces will come out of 1 more sticks, or up to 3.
Also, a way of keeping track is go through and count your verticals. Once you get a count with your verticals, you can go back and take a count of where your horizontals going down.
So we're going to go ahead and just streamline through this and show how easy it can be. So we have 2 3/4, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, extra. Let's just mark it 5. Then we can move on to our horizontals. So we know that our top rail from measuring earlier is the same 2.5. That's in that spectrum between 1 3/4 and 2.5, so that's going to be included in that same width, as well as that one.
Nice.
And this one. So we go 1, 2, 3 is 1 more. We were at 5 before, so now we have 6. Extra. 6 feet. So let's just keep that extra.
This is 2 foot wide, so now we're at 1 stick coming across. So 6, 7. From the top, call it 8.
8. Then we have our in-betweens.
Top row. 9, 10, and
11.
zip those. So we're at 11. We will add one more stick and call it 12, just to make sure we have enough with our cutoff. Account for any waste.
Now the only thing left over is our small measurement, which is really just the bottom rail on the very bottom and the bottom rail across this. So we can call that 1, and we can call that 2, and just to be safe, let's call it 3. You're better off to order in even numbers just so they like stack evenly.
So now that we've gone through, we'll go ahead and double check our count just to make sure our order is going to be correct and we're not going to come up short later on. So let's go ahead and start with our largest,
which is just the toe kick. So we have a 2-foot section over there, a 2-foot section over there, and a 9-foot section coming down.
And we know we've ordered plenty extra by ordering 4 8-foot sticks to account for this 13 feet.
All right, so now we'll go with our verticals, which are all the same width at that 2 3/4. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Forgot the top rail.
Guys,
7, 8, 9, 10.
and we add a couple more sticks for waist, leaving us at 12.
Then we go to our 1.5 inch, and we know that our smallest ones are just the bottom rail and the bottom rail. So 1, 2, and then we go ahead and add a couple more just to be safe.
And that should be plenty of material to skin the entirety of this cabinet section. Panels to face frame.
All right. Again, as long as you follow these steps, double check all your measurements. As a matter of fact, you want to double check the panels?
It is best to double check all your measurements. So let's get a double check on the panels.
All right, so undercaps first. I have 11 by 33 3/4.
Perfect.
Another undercap, 11 by 34.
Perfect. Go to the next upper, undercap, upper panels, lower panels, and then face frame.
Same order that we did before. 25.5 by 80.5. 25.5 by 48.
Perfect.
12.25 by 30. 24 by 32 5/8.
One more way to verify that everything's been accounted for is to just take a count of the panels needed and then go back and count the panels you have ordered. We count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And on my paperwork, I do show I have 6 panels ordered, and we are confident that this is the material that will be needed for their projects.
Again, you cannot check your measurements enough. If you don't feel comfortable with what your measurements are on your piece of paper, go back and recheck it. Again, with your partner, that 2-person technique works very well to get the most accurate measurements you can. So thank you again for tuning in to Outside the Box. I'm Rob, this is Bob, and that is how you measure for skinning your cabinets.